Welcome to our explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most brilliant, frustrating, and, you know, deeply human characters in American theater, Walter Lee Younger from A Raisin in the Sun. We're here to solve a really fascinating puzzle. How can one guy be both this mighty, powerful warrior and a completely defeated chauffeur?
So let's just jump right into the big puzzle here. On the one hand, you've got Walter in this almost trance-like state, calling himself a flaming spear, a chief leading his people. But then, on the other hand, you have Walter the chauffeur just feeling totally trapped and invisible. How do these two completely different people exist in the same man? Let's break it down.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll explore Walter's big warrior fantasy. Then we'll contrast that with the harsh reality he's actually living in. And finally, we'll figure out what connects these two desperate sides of his character. Okay, let's get into it. We're going to look at two key scenes from Act 1 that really pull back the curtain on the deep, conflicting desires that are just raging inside Walter Lee Younger. So we first meet this other Walter after he's been drinking. He stumbles home, finds his sister Benitha dancing to some Nigerian music, and, well, something just sparks inside of him. And he just declares this to his wife, Ruth, who, just kind of dryly dismisses him as a drunk. But Walter doesn't care. He ignores her completely, because in his mind, he's not in their tiny Chicago apartment anymore. He's on a stage, and he's becoming someone else entirely. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting. While his wife Ruth just sees a fool, his sister Benitha, she sees something different. Instead of shutting him down, she actually jumps right into this imaginary world with him. I mean, just look at this back and forth. It's a performance they're building together, right there in the living room. He shouts out a chant, and she echoes it right back, even giving him the name Flaming Spear. And with that little bit of encouragement, he leaps onto a table. He's not a chauffeur anymore. He's a great chief, a descendant of Shaka, ready to lead his people to war. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is going through her mind right then? Is she just, playing along with her drunk brother? Or does she, maybe just for a second, actually see the powerful man, the leader, that he so desperately wants to be? Maybe she sees a glimpse of that proud heritage she's exploring herself. This fantasy is so powerful, but it's also incredibly fragile. The doorbell rings. And reality, in the form of Benitha's rich suitor, George Murchison, literally walks through the door. And just like that, the whole thing shatters. The warrior vanishes, and Walter makes a quick exit. And now for the whiplash. We leave that drunken fantasy behind and find a completely sober Walter, who is now face-to-face with his family's entire future, all tied up in a single piece of paper. $10,000. It's a life insurance check from his father's death. And this isn't just money, it's everything. It's hope, it's grief, it's possibility. And for Walter, it is the one key that he thinks will unlock his version of the American dream. You can just feel the desperation in this line, can't you? He bursts into the room, not with a hello, but with, did it come? He's got this plan for a liquor store, a real path to becoming his own man. But right away, he feels like no one is taking him seriously. Like his dream and his manhood are being dismissed. And this table here, it breaks down the core conflict perfectly. For Walter, that check is all about the future, a chance to invest and build something. But for his mother, Mama, it's completely tied to the past, to her husband's sacrifice. It's a real clash of generations. Mama's generation fought for basic dignity. But Walter feels like, in the 1950s, there is no dignity without economic power. So, here's the crucial point. The drunken warrior and the frustrated husband, they're not two different people. They're two sides of the exact same coin. And they're both fueled by this desperate, all-consuming desire for respect in a world that just won't give it to him. This is what's going through his mind. It's a cycle. He lives this reality where his job is just demeaning. He opens car doors for rich men and feels like a nobody. So to cope, he escapes into this fantasy of being a leader, a flaming spear, and he sees that check, that $10,000, as the one and only bridge to get from his grim reality to that beautiful fantasy. And when he tries to explain this feeling, wow, he describes his future without this money as a looming blank space. That is a terrifying image. It's not just about being poor. It's about his entire future being this void of nothingness, a life sentence of being invisible.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. When Mama asks him why he's so obsessed with money, his answer, well, it reveals everything about his worldview and his generation's struggle.
This exchange is it's incredible. For Mama's generation, freedom was a spiritual thing, a political ideal. But for Walter, a black man in his time, working a job where he feels like a servant, money is the language of respect. It's become the only real way he can measure freedom and manhood in the world around him.
And that brings us right back to this quote. This is the terror that's driving him. This fear of a meaningless future is the engine for both his wild warrior fantasy and his desperate, angry plea for that money. They're both just defense mechanisms against this horrible vision of an empty life. So in the end, we're left with this question. Is the liquor store the real dream? Or is it just the only tool he can think of to finally get the power, the dignity, and the respect of a man who can call himself a flaming spear and actually truly mean it?